Alrighty, so here we go. It's time to do part one of the review of the Saturday night action, and I'm actually ending up reviewing 12 of the 13 games that happened on Saturday night because one of the game between FC Dallas versus St. Louis, they played about 50 minutes, then they got into a lightning delay, and they never restarted. So that game is now postponed to a later date, similar to what we saw last year between Charlotte and Columbus. And also, just like that one, it's going to be interesting to see whether if the game between Dallas and St. Louis is going to push back all the way near the end of the season. And keep in mind, the game is still at 0-0 in that one. So it's going to be interesting that when they do restart it, you only get like 40 minutes of soccer to decide the who is going to win that one. Unlike last year between Charlotte versus Columbus, where that game only played like what 8 minutes or 13 minutes, and they had like a full chunk of the game to decide who, of course, wins that game. But nevertheless, in terms of these other resort, well, once again, we had some surprising resort, and as I mentioned in my review between Sporting KC versus Seattle, where we saw Sporting KC finally getting their first win of the season, become the last team to get a win this year. We also saw the last unbeaten team suffer their first loss this week as well, and of course we'll get to that game, but you probably know which game I'm talking about, knowing the fact that I'm wearing a retro 2003 Quakes champion jersey that I got as a promotion gift from one of the Quakes game. I think it was actually the opening game between the Quakes and the Whitecaps that I got this promotion item. But nevertheless, let us begin with the first game, which is Charlotte versus NYCFC. And again, depending on how you look at it, it might be a surprising result because, Charlotte, they scored 3 goals this game, which is something that, that's been a problem for this team. They have had problems in terms of goal scoring, but it turns out this was the Enzo Capetti coming out party. I mean, this was the game that Charlotte was hoping Enzo Capetti is going to be the player like he performed in this one, and we'll see whether or not if that continues. And NYCFC, their struggles on the road continue. Coming in out of this game. Now in the first half, Sebasinski did put set wide from close range, but then in the 8th minute, Charlotte takes the lead. It's Petty scoring from Gaines and Westwood to give Charlotte a 1-0 lead. Merrim did try to score on his debut not long after, but he just brushed the post from long range. And then just 1 minute later, it looked like it was 2-0 when Shvedetsky puts it into the back of net. The problem was the flag was already up. So yeah, that did not count for Charlotte. But it was all Charlotte up to that point. Like they were pushing for a second goal. They were dominating the game. So Kalina, of course, making his first start coming back from an injury. He denied Parks as that was NYCFC first shots. But then on their second shot, they score. It's Pereira scoring from Ledesma and Martins to tie the game up at 1 apiece. So you can say in some way it was kind of against the run of play with Charlotte being the more dominant team up to that point. But that tying goal did not last long because just 2 minutes later, Petty would get on the score sheet again. This time he scored from just a Miram to give Charlotte a 2-1 lead. Again, if you're a Charlotte fan, this has to be great news. Seeing Enzo Capetti finally start to score goals. It's been a real struggle for the big signing Argentine for this Charlotte team, and that hopefully with this breakthrough game, we'll see whether or not if he can follow that and kind of live up to the price tag that Charlotte, of course, got him from this off season. But we do head to halftime with Charlotte leading 2-1, and in the second half, Lindsay trying to make it 3-1, but he puts it wide from close from the corner. But then a penalty was given to NYCFC after Melinda brought down her food in the box, which Rodriguez basically steps up, and Santi Rodriguez buries that one, and the game was tied up at 2 apiece. But just like the first time when NYCFC tied the game up, it wouldn't stay tied up for long. Well, actually, it was a little bit longer this time. It was 16 minutes this time because in the 73rd minute, Richie Ledesma with an unfortunate own goal there, and yeah, this was just one of those ones where we've seen it happens before when the ball is never in the box, and if you're a defender, it's always going to be tough to try and to deal with that, and Ledesma didn't deal with it very well. He heads it into his own net, and yeah, Charlotte was leading this game again, but he did try to make amends for it. Just 1 minute later, he tried to make amends with the own goal, but he was denied by Kalina. Rodriguez then hits one wide from the corner, and NYCFC was ramping up the pressure, and you started to see that here we go again for Charlotte. They're just kind of bunkering in, and I just don't like how they do this, and I'm pretty sure Charlotte fans don't like it either. The fact that Latanzio's decided to just kind of sit back and hope for the best, where it's been proven before that that hasn't been very effective for the Charlotte team. But in the end, they were still able to hold on to win 3-2 in this one. As the shots in this one, 11 shots for the 10 that NYCFC had, 6 shots on goal for the 3 that Charlotte has, 4 shots off target for the 3 that NYCFC had, 1 shot that was blocked for the 4 that Charlotte has, and possession-wise, 58% possession compared to 40% possession that Charlotte has in this game. Easily the best attacking performance that Charlotte has, and easily Enzo Capetti's best game for Charlotte this season. So yeah, big win for them at home, which has been come far and between. But for NYCFC again, the road struggle just can continue. And the thing is that they kept it close, being clinical in terms of the finishing, but in reality they didn't really create too much chances until late in the game, where Charlotte was just kind of inviting pressure, and unfortunately they just weren't able to get that crucial equalizer to at least salvage a point out of this one. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is Cincinnati versus DC United. And I gotta feel bad for DC out of this game, because I really think they play very well in this one, and they were very unlucky to not get a point out of this game with the chances that they created against the Cincinnati team. But this is also another example to show you why Pat Nolan has clearly changed the culture of the Cincinnati side. Because if this was a couple of years ago, back in the wooden spoon day for FC Cincinnati, they would have easily lost this game against DC United. Now, in the first half, Santos would miss wide from close range, as I thought Cincy was on the front foot early. Miazga would head one right to Miller before I thought the stats showed that the possession was 72-28 in favor of Cincinnati. So it's no doubt that they were just controlling the flow of the game. Though the first shot for DC did came in the 24th minute, as or actually not Miller, I'm sorry. Celentano denied Juan in the front post again. Another classic mistake of writing the same goalkeeper as the same team shooter, of course, made. I mean, that's gonna be something I gotta fix. That it was actually Celentano that makes the save there. Though that being said, just 13 minutes later, he would deny Benteke from close range, and really DC got into this game. I mean, it was a slow start for them, but they were getting into this game. They were starting to create a couple of decent chances in front of Celentano's net. In fact, just a couple of minutes later, Celentano had to deny O'Brien in the front post. Actually, it's not just a couple of minutes. As soon as I wrote that, Celentano had to deny O'Brien in the front post. So yeah, DC almost got the lead as soon as I thought that they were getting into this one. But we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, Funtaz would put it just wide from close range, as I thought it was a promising start for DC. But Cincinnati actually gets the opening goal in this one, and it's Lucho Acosta with the second Olympico goal that is scored this season. Obviously, we saw in the first one from Bernadeschi, and obviously I don't know if he said the fact that, yeah, the win of course kind of helped aid the fact that one went in, and obviously you can't say that the win of course helped in this case, because there's no win uh inside TQL Stadium at that point. But one thing that I will say about this Olympico goal is that, yeah, I feel like Miller should have done better in terms of it. In fact, I think the whole DC team should have done better in terms of it. First of all, there was nobody marking the front post. There's a reason why you want to have a player marking in the front post, because if in case if a player decided to try to sneak into the front post, that could of course happen. And also, if you're not going to have a man in the front post, your goalkeeper cannot be too far out of the of that near post. And I thought Tyler Miller in this case, he's just too far away from that front post. He was kind of leaning more toward the back post, and kind of allow a gaping hole for the corner taker to maybe sneak one in. And Lucho Acosta saw that, and you got to give credit to him. He saw that problem that DC created himself, and he took full advantage of it. So yeah, Cincinnati leads at 1-0. I mean, that being said, it was still a great Olympico goal. And again, it's kind of weird the fact that Olympico goal doesn't usually happen, but already we saw it twice. It has happened in this first third of the season. And I also thought that it was kind of coming with the way that I've seen Lucho Acosta have tried those Olympico goal a couple of times, and you just had a feeling one of them bound is to go in, and there you go. He puts that one in and give Cincinnati the 1-0 lead. And then just 14 minutes later, Cincinnati double their lead. It's Barrial scoring from Acosta here to make it 2-0 in favor of Cincinnati. Great pass there from Lucho Acosta to set up Barrial. And safe to say that Acosta definitely enjoy had a great day against his former team in this one, but what a strike this was from Barrio. Definitely a contention for goal of the week. I mean, just absolute rocket of a shot that Tyler Miller had zero chance in terms of saving it. Though on the other end, Benteke did miss wide on the header, and then O'Brien would miss wide from close again. Williams then missed wide from long range in the 85th minute. As you know, DC again, that even though they're 2-0 down, I mean, any team when you're down on the road 2-0, especially against a good team, you could easily just fold and just kind of say, well, let's just hang up the tile and think about the next game. Not this DC team. And again, this just shows you the difference that this DC team, and you got to give credit to how Wayne Rooney has really give the mentality of this team of just not giving up. Funtas then drags one wide from close in the 87th minute before Assad would hit one right to Salatano. But then in the 90th minute, all the pressure that DC forced against Cincinnati paid off as Taxi Funtas would score here to make it 2-1 in favor of DC. And again, it's nervy time again inside TKO Stadium. And as I mentioned, if this was back in the Winspoon year, I can guarantee you DC would have got themselves an equalizer. But again, this is the thing about this FC Cincinnati side. They even though those you can see sometimes they face adversity, they don't just completely crater like what we see during the wooden spoon era. But in the third minute stoppage time, they thought that they should have got a penalty, as they feel like Brenner was brought down the box. Actually, it was Brenner himself feel like he was brought down in the box, but nothing was given. But in the end, Cincinnati, they were able to hold on to win 2-1 in this one. By the way, there was 10 minutes of stoppage time in this one. So yeah, it was a lot of butt clenching inside TKO Stadium there, but they survived and win 2-1 in this one. Shots in this one, 11 shots for the 13 that DC had, 5 shots on goal for the 4 that Cincinnati has, 5 shots off target compared to the 4 that Cincinnati has. Both teams had 3 shots that was blocked in possession-wise, 54% possession compared to the 46% possession that Cincinnati has in this game. And again, for DC, there's nothing a shame to be coming out of this loss because, I thought they played very hard. They were just kind of a little unlucky the fact that they face a really good team and also Sanatano making some big save coming out of this one. But for Cincinnati, it's a good result for them. I mean, it wasn't pretty, but that's kind of is the case for this season for Cincinnati is that they it feels like this season is kind of the opposite of last season. Last season they were kind of like a free scoring team. This season they definitely been much tighter on the defensive end, but they also are able to grind out resort and able to continue to close out games, something that, again, this is something that was completely unheard of a couple of years ago before Pat Nolan and Chris Albright took over this team. But that being said, moving on into the next one is Miami versus Atlanta United. So obviously the big discussion coming out of this game is will Joseph Martinez be part of this one because in the last game he actually was an unused sub and it's safe to say that I think Phil Neville has benched Joseph Martinez in the last game. But obviously in this one you kind of had a sense that he has to play in this one because it is against his former team and it's kind of like a Joseph Martinez derby that's been building up since the beginning of the season and boy did it not disappoint. In fact, I would say that, if you would have showed this kind of script to a Hollywood producer, they would think it is just way too good to be true. But in the first half, really for the first 20 minutes, if you missed the first 20 minutes, good news, you didn't miss much. I mean, there was really nothing that happened in the first 20 minutes. The first shot of the game didn't came until the 23rd minute when Etienne would hit one right to counter. Mata then hits one right to counter as I thought Atlanta was starting to create some chances and was pushing for the opener. Though in the 36th minute, Campana did try to chip Westberg, but Westberg was able to gather that one and came back on his lines. But that change came off of a bad turnover from Atlanta. Said this a couple of times with Atlanta United for the past couple of games. They need to stop turning the ball over so easily. And again, we've seen that it has cost them times and that it almost cost them there where they just give the ball away. And Campana, of course, tried to trip the keeper coming off his lines, but wasn't able to do so. Kamenski then heads one wide from the corner in the 45th minute. We do head to halftime with the scoreless between Miami and Atlanta. But in the second half, it wouldn't stay scoreless for long because Miami had a chance to get the opening opening goal with them getting a penalty in the 58th minute as Cho brought down Kamaski in the box. And before the penalty was taken, Joseph Martinez was subbed into this one. So again, this is where you kind of had this kind of Hollywood script, the fact that, oh, yeah, of course we're gonna have Joseph Martinez subbed in to take this penalty because you know that this game, the build up in this game is the question about Joseph Martinez and what is it going to be like facing against his former team. Well, straight off that we're going to get that answer because he's got a penalty. He's got a chance to finally end his drought and score his first career MLS goal for Inter Miami, and he does that. He buries it in the 59th minute to make it 1-0 in favor of Miami. By the way, there was no hip skippity scop that we sometimes see Joseph Martinez does. I think it's getting to a point where he just abandoned that penalty kick routine. I remember he does that a lot during his early years with Atlanta United, and I just it just I feel like goalkeepers have started to figure it out, and that the trick about trying to face a penalty kick taker try to do that routine is as long as you just stay on your line, then you basically cause the penalty kick taker to panic and put it in a spot where the keeper clearly could have easily saved it. And I think at point you kind of start to see that happened. And that I think that's kind of make Joseph Martinez kind of abandon that routine, and he slots this one in easily. And yeah, that of course his first career MLS goal for Inter Miami, and of course it has to be against Atlanta United. And you know what else also has to be against Atlanta? His 100th career MLS goal, because just 16 minutes later, he would score again here from Yetland and McVeigh to make it 2-0 in favor of Inter Miami. And as I said, 100 MLS goal in 142 MLS game. That is the quickest that any player in MLS has reached that mark. About I think 25 games fewer than when BWP got his 100 career MLS goal in 169 games. I mean, we knew that it was eventually going to happen, but yeah, with him kind of going through a bit of a goal drought, maybe there was a little bit of a doubt, but no, in this one, he again, it feels like it's too good to be true. The fact that Joseph Martinez, to end his goal drought, it has to be against his former team, and I wonder how he feels about the two. I mean, doing those two goals, he did actually celebrate, and usually when you see a player score against his former team, you usually see them kind of being respectable and not celebrating. But I can understand why Martinez would do so because he had some very heated exchange with the front office to a point where he just kind of wants to be out of Atlanta, and this is kind of almost his revenge on the Atlanta United front office of the fact that, yeah, this is why you probably shouldn't let me go in the first place. And also, if you're an Atlanta United fan, I don't know how you feel about this. I mean, it has to be conflicted feeling because on one hand, Joseph Martinez is I'm pretty sure it's still well loved in the Atlanta United fan base. I mean, he and Miguel Almiron literally built Atlanta United and what made Atlanta so great when they came into the league. So this has to be a very bittersweet pill to swallow, seeing Martinez getting such a career mark against against them in this one. But yeah, as I said, that made it 2-0. But things kind of got interesting late because Negri would actually get sent off for Inter Miami, and yeah, this was the right call. I mean, that was a studs up challenge that he had on Sosa. It's definitely worthy of red after VR look at it. And then Sosa himself tried to hit one to get one back, but he puts that one wide before a counter had to deny Sosa from close range. And there was no doubt Atlanta was pressing to get one back to set up a grandstand finish. And they do. It's Andrew Guzman scoring from Lennon from the corner to make it 2-1 in favor of Miami, and it was butt-punching time for Miami fans because, yeah, all of a sudden the momentum was with Atlanta. It looks like that Hollywood script is going to to end in a bit of a sour note, but fortunately it didn't because after Sosa hits one right to counter, Miami survived. They win 2-1 in this one against Atlanta United. Shots in this one, 17 shots compared to 9 that Miami has. 5 shots on goal for the 3 that Miami had. 6 shots off target for the 3 that Miami has. 3 shots that was blocked for the 6 that Atlanta has. And possession-wise, Atlanta actually had the better of the possession. 56% possession compared to 44% possession that Inter Miami has in this game. So despite the fact that Atlanta, they had better of the stats, and you could say that they were kind of the better team in this one. Inter Miami gets their second win in a row, courtesy of one of the legendary player that used to play for Atlanta United, scoring two goals in this one, and that again, it's just absolutely insane. I mean, if there is a way where maybe some conspiracy theories of MLS will say that this league sometime is scripted, maybe this is going to be used as their evidence. The fact that yeah, it feels too good to be true that Joseph Martinez would score 2 goals against his former team and would reach that landmark of 100 MLS career goal against his former team. But that's exactly what happened in this one. But that being said, moving on into the next game is Montreal versus Orlando City. So while it's definitely happy time in South Florida for Inter Miami, it's frustrating time once again in Central Florida for Orlando City. And again, this is the thing that their fans has got to just go absolutely nuts. The fact that this has happened pretty much throughout this season and last season, and maybe really for the past 2 years, where there's just no consistency for this Orlando City side. They cannot follow up a good result in the last week to think that they can turn around the corner, and then they just follow up with laying an egg in this game against Montreal. Now, early on, Angulo did pulls it wide from close range before Ofer hits it wide from the corner. Kara then hits it right to Saros, as I thought it was a good the start for both of these team. Chances coming in for both of these teams. Ojeda then pulls one just wide after just a bad turnover from Montreal before Facundo Torres would pulls it wide from long range. But then on the other end, Galese would deny Lassiter from long range before Duke trying to score for the second game in a row, but he puts a free kick high. Camacho then hits it right to Galese before on the other end, Kara would hits it one right to Saros. Again, it was a back and forth kind of game early on, both teams getting some good opportunities, but who can of course get the breakthrough? Well, that answer wouldn't answer until the second half because we do head to halftime scoreless, and in the second half, the answer was Montreal because in the 62nd minute they would get the opening goal. It was actually credit to be an own goal by Robert Janssen after it looked like it was given to Herrera because Herrera had a shot that took a wicked deflection off of Janssen and it goes into the back of the net. Usually when we see that, they give it to the guy that shoot that ball and score that, but I think they said that Herrera shot was actually off target, and when it took that wicked deflection, it redirected back in. So that's kind of understandable, but at the same time, I feel like they should just give it to Aaron Herrera, who I thought he had a really good game in this one. And then just a couple of minutes later, Montreal doubled their lead because that's what they do. I mean, it feels like the last couple of wins, once they score one goal, you know they're going to score a second goal. And in this one, in the second goal that they scored, it's Romel Kyoto returning from being on the IR for last couple of games. He scored here from Herrera and Duke to make it 2-0 in favor of Montreal. Angulo did try to look to response for Orlando, but he puts it wide from long range. And really, as the time winds down, there really wasn't much that has happened, and this is where you kind of had a sense that that second goal just sank Orlando City. Like there was you can see they were kind of getting frustrated because of the fact that Montreal was just kind of completely controlling this game, and Orlando just couldn't get the ball. And because they couldn't get the ball, they started to get frustrated and just take a couple of bad foul, which that doesn't help their cause because Montreal is just going to continue to slow down the game and take their time to take the free kick. In fact, it was kind of a very stop and go game. I mean, there was a lot of fouls in the latter part of the game. There was no rhythm to the game, but Montreal wouldn't care because they were leading in this one. They were just kind of coasting their way to get all 3 points, and they do so in this one. 2-0 was the final score. Their third straight 2-0 wins that they had to now all of a sudden get themselves right in the picture of the playoff position. Shots in this one, 13 shots for the 7 that Montreal has, 3 shots on goal for the 2 that Orlando has, 4 shots off target for the 9 that Orlando has, and in terms of block shot, 2 shots that was blocked for the none that Montreal has, and possession-wise, 55% possession compared to the 45% possession that Montreal has in this one. And to tell you how close Montreal is from the playoff position, they're only 2 points back in terms of 8th place, and I believe they're only 3 points back of 5th place. It is starting to get tight in terms of the battle in terms of the middle part of the Eastern Conference to near the bottom of the Eastern Conference. Again, just to show you why sometimes I really love this league because of how tight things can get, and it's starting to become a bit of a logjam. And again, you got to give full credit has to be for Montreal, and full credit also has to give to Hernan Lasada, who I think now the heat has started to come off of his seat. He has really turned around this this season in a short way. But for Orlando City, it's continued frustration for this team. Again, I'm pretty sure Orlando City fans are gonna hope that one day, eventually, the squad that they built and the signings that they had this offseason will come to play and don't underachieve and also find some consistency for once. But unfortunately, this week is not the day. Another there are times where they came off of a win, looked like they had the momentum, and now it's back to the drawing boards because they come up with a loss. But that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the last 5 games, or not the last 5 games, but the last 4 games to finish off part one of the review of the Saturday night action. So moving on into the next game is the Red Bulls and the Philadelphia Union. So I mentioned Hernan Losada, his seat looks like it started to be cooled off a little bit with the recent good form that Montreal is in. The seat is getting hotter and hotter for Gerhard Stuver. I mean, mentioned before, I would not be surprised if this Red Bulls team continued to go on this losing run that they might think about firing Gerhard Stuver because yeah, this was a game where they're playing against a Union side that is coming off of that heartbreak in CCL. And while the Union, they didn't play spectacular in this one, they did what they needed to do. Able to nick themselves a goal and just kind of hold on because the Red Bulls just couldn't finish in this one. Now, in the first half, Fernandez would pulls it wide from close before Blake would deny tokens from close range. It was a positive start for the Red Bulls, who desperately needed an early goal and try to get themselves a chance to set up a much needed win. But instead, in the 26th minute, a penalty was given to the Union as Sean Nealis brought down Carranza in the box there. Or actually, was it Dylan Nealis that brought down? I forgot which Nealis brother it was. Either way, one of them did brought down Carranza in the box, and Gastek puts it away there, as he always do from the spot, to give the Union a 1-0 lead, and really kind of against the run of play, because up to that point, the Red Bulls were by far the better team. Cáceres Jr. did try to respond, but he missed that one wide before Burke would miss a header wide there. And again, the Red Bulls were pressing late to trying to get themselves the equalizer in the first half. Keep in mind there was 7 minutes of stoppage time in the first half, but we do head to halftime with the Union holding on to a 1-0 lead. Now in the second half, it was almost 2-0, as one of the rare chances that they had from Nathan Harvio, as his shot from close range was absolutely robbed by Carlos Cornell. Van Tokens on the other end hits one right to Blake before Blake almost got too cute here. So what he did here is that he tried to be too cute here, trying to dribble a couple of Red Bulls players there. But yeah, Corey Burke, he kind of took a bit personally against his former team here, and he basically brought him down. And honestly, I was actually surprised there was not kind of a bit of a scuffle and maybe some pushing and shoving between both of these teams, because anytime when you see an opposition foul a goalkeeper like what we saw with Burke fouling Blake, which yeah, Blake was definitely in serious in pain after that one. Oh, you would definitely see both teams start to kick off, and both team would really get into each other faces. But it didn't really kind of happen in this one, which is kind of one of the rare time that I don't see that, of course, happen. So that being said, Burke did heads it wide from close in the 73rd minute, and really as times wind down, you can see there's desperation shown to this Red Bulls team. Like, they need to win this game, and the fact that they're down 1-0, not only pushing for the equalizer, they need to win this to stop this incredible downward spiral that they've been going through for the past couple of games. And the Union, again, knowing the fact that they're almost running out on empty because of them coming off that CCL run, they were just looking to bunker and just not only walk away with a 1-0 win, but just survive to get out of Harrison, New Jersey with a 1-0 win. But there was a huge shout for a penalty for the Red Bulls not giving in the 90th minute. And then in the 4th minute of stoppage time, Burke would hit one right to Blake there. By the way, this week, turns out if you are facing against your former team, it was a good week for you, because I mentioned Joseph Martinez scoring against his former team, but we had a couple more players able to score goals against his former team, and I thought Corey Burke was going to add to that list, but it didn't happen here. And what also didn't happen is a win for the Red Bulls, because it's a 1-0 loss in this one, and the shots in this one, 17 shots committed, just 3 that the Union has, 2 shots on goal committed, 3 that the Red Bulls had, 1 shots off target committed, 6 that the Red Bulls had, 8 shots on his block committed, none that the Union has, and possession-wise, 53% possession compare the 47% possession that the Union has in this game. And yeah, again, for the Red Bulls, again, I think if this losing run continue, they have no choice to fire Gerhard Stuver. And I also think that as much as I know no maybe them getting a new head coach might fix the issue, maybe it doesn't because I think some Red Bulls fans have said the fact that it's not just Gerhard Stuver that has getting this team down. The whole organization in terms of how they 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 actually built the roster is a huge issue, and I just kind of feel like this is starting to become a similar case to what we see with Sporting KC and the LA Galaxy, where maybe the Red Bulls might need to have a clean house, and that again I wonder whether with them missing the playoffs for the first time this season, which definitely looked like it's a big likelihood with the terrible start that they have, could be the thing that we could see because this is just bad in terms of how we seen from this Red Bulls team. But for the Union, again, I know that loss against LAFC, I know that some Union fans are still very frustrating and kind of heartbroken because of that. But at least this win definitely will at least come for them. And again, if this Union team that they can get some wins again in league plays, then they're right back into the picture of the being there at the top part of the standings, and this is where I think if the Union can get themselves going again in league play, watch out. The Eastern Conference is going to be there is to be, as I thought that was the case in the beginning of the season. But that being said, moving on into the next one. So as I mentioned earlier before, the last unbeaten team in MLS finally fall this week, and that was the case for LAFC as they suffer their first loss of the season. And I did say in the preview that if the Quakes were able to win this one against LAFC, I would say this might be one of the bigger upset of this season. And I don't want to take back what I said about that because I really think that for the Quakes, they actually has done well against LAFC. At least when they're playing at home in the last couple of meeting. In fact, I know during the early days when the Quakes play against LAFC, they just get absolutely smoked by LAFC every single game. But that has not been the case in the last couple of games, especially at home. I mean, LAFC. I feel like the San Jose Earthquakes has started becoming their bogey team, especially when they're playing on the road because they have not got a win against the Quakes since 2019 when Vela, of course, scored that hat trick and won 5-0 against the Quakes. And their wait in terms of getting a road win against the Quakes have to continue after this game. But early on, the first thing I want to kind of mention is the camera angle and the pitch at Levi Stadium. I thought it was great. I thought the camera angle was great. I mean, some might say it was a little bit too high, but I thought it was perfect. And also the pitch at Levi Stadium, it was beautiful. Like that pitch was just as good of a pitch that I've seen in MLS, and that's you got to give a lot of credit in terms of this ground crew at Levi Stadium. I mean, Levi Stadium, one of the things that's been one that people has really hate about that stadium is the fact that the grass on that stadium is just awful. Like when it was first built and in the first couple of years when it was finished, that was one of the worst turf in NFL, and that I thought that was going to be a problem again, but it feels like they might have fixed it because it looked absolutely gorgeous in that one. And I also want to say that there was not as much LAFC fans in the stands as I thought it was be. So, in the preview I said that most likely 20,000 of those 45,000 end up in this one is going to be LAFC fans. That actually maybe was me being a little bit exaggerating because I would say maybe about 3 or 4 thousand was LAFC fans in this one. I mean, most of them were sitting in the 300 level. That's kind of the dedicated away section, and they did kind of post it. The fact that they have brought their supporter group. Even some go in an extreme way to say they have took over San Jose in this one, which I don't know about that. When pretty much most of the fans in the stadium were either wearing Quakes jersey or they're just kind of neutral, or even wearing a Mexico jersey. Probably want to see Carlos Vela in person, or the fact that it is Mexican Heritage Night in terms of this game. But yeah, there was definitely as not as much as LAFC fans as I thought it was. Definitely not as much as when I see LAFC play against the Quakes at PayPal Park. But in the 5th minute, the first shot of the game did see Vela pulls it wide, but then in the 8th minute, Quakes gets the opening goal. It's Espinoza who continues to be red hot and show you why he deserved the player of the month from last month. He scored for Montero and Iboasi to make it 1-0 in favor of the Quakes. That was such a beautiful work goal from the Quakes. That goal really kind of reminds me of when they scored that second goal against Vancouver, where I saw that one in person, where it was a capo, the one that gets to the end of it, and it was just a Man City level kind of soccer with them just passing that one around and work it get out. And yeah, I mean that was kind of similar to this, and that yeah, the Quakes deservedly gets a 1-0 lead, and then it could have been 2-0 as Espinoza was trying to go for a second goal, but he hits this one right to McCarthy. By the way, Espinoza has already hit his career high in terms of the season goal scoring for the Quakes, and we're only 1/3 into the season. It just shows you how Christian Espinoza, a guy that is more known to be the guy that provides the assist, he has kind of gone into a Hani Mukhtar level in terms of both providing assists and also scoring the goals for this team. Then Paul Marie would miss wide from long range in the 11th minute. As again, I thought it was a great start for the Quakes against the defending champions as they were pushing for the second goal. Though Maldonado did hit it high from close range before Bawanga hits one right to Marcinkowski on the free kick. And here we go. This is LAFC that we know of. They look like they have woke up after a slow start and we're looking to get the equalizer. And they do. In the 30th minute, who else but Dennis Bawanga scoring here to tie the game up at 1 apiece. But yeah, that is one that JT wants to have back. And again, this is the thing. This is the thing that I think it could be a problem for the Quakes as the season goes along, where goalkeeping is going to be an issue. Because as much as JT Marcinkowski, I've said it last season, I'll say it again this year. Yes, he has made some big save for this team, but then there are times where he make these moments where just gave up a juicy rebound and he gave it right into the path of Bawanga. That's the last player you want to give a juicy rebound to on this LAFC team, and it should be no surprise that Bawanga tucks that one home. And yeah, just a goal that very frustrating to see the Quakes give up, and especially for JT Marcinkowski to give up. But in the 32nd minute, Montero did look to give the Quakes lead back, but he missed wide on the doorstep of goal. Yeah, that's one that Jameer Montero will want back. Yeah, on the doorstep of goal, he's got to put that one away, especially when you're facing it on the team like LAFC. That's one has to be buried from Jameer Montero. Though Bawanga did look to get his second goal and the lead, but this one hits right to Marcinkowski before he puts it high from close in the 43rd minute, and LAFC was pressing to try to get the lead before halftime. Maldonado had a chance to do so, but he missed wide on the curler, and we head to halftime with this game tied up at 1 apiece. Now in the second half, Palencia puts it wide from close range, and I thought LAFC picked up where they left off. They were pressing to try to get that second goal to a point where I kind of feel like the Quakes were kind of holding on a bit. Like they almost, I kind of had a feeling that they were maybe just playing for this 1-1 draw. But at the same time, I also kind of wrote they need to ride out this storm that LAFC was putting, and in some way they kind of did. I mean, as we hit the hour mark, I thought the pace kind of started to slow down, and I just wonder, is that a combination of the Quakes starting to keep some more possession, trying to calm the game down, or the fact that LAFC has started running empty? I mean, I mentioned in this game between the Union, like it was kind of a miracle that Jim Curtin was able to survive and win 1-0 with the way that team was kind of running on fumes, and they just able to nick a 1-0 win. And you just wonder, is that the same case for LAFC? Because again, that game between them in CCL midweek, it was just such a physical game that 3 days is not enough to try to recover from that. And you're just wondering, is that kind of the case for LAFC? Well, it didn't look like it, because in the 75th minute, Marcinkowski had to make a big save to deny Opoku from long range before Opoku would hit one right to Marcinkowski in the 80th minute. But then in the 82nd minute, a penalty was given to the Quakes. One thing that I thought the Quakes did really good is the fact that they really did well in terms of transitional play. Like right after the 60th minute mark, they really created a lot of their chances from the transitional play, almost kind of giving LAFC a little taste of their own medicine, because we know LAFC can be good on the transitional play too. But yeah, here the Quakes draw a penalty, and yeah, this was no doubt a penalty. It was just a silly challenge there from Maldonado to Iboasi. Just an example of why he's not a regular center back for this LAFC team. And Espinoza, of course, steps up, looking to try to retake the lead for the Quakes. and he do. He buries that one to make it 2-1 in favor of the Quakes. And I mean, well, it's time to see if the Quakes can seize this one out, because this has been a problem we've seen for this team, especially on the road, where they just have trouble in terms of closing out game. Now, fortunately, that's not really a problem in terms of when they're playing at home. And in the third minute stoppage time, Tillman did have a chance to tie it for LAFC, but he heads it wide from close range. But overall, they were able to seize this one out. Big 2-1 win in this one, a really a statement win too, because as I mentioned, this is now getting to a point where the Quakes are heading a very crucial stretch where they play against some tough opponent. And I've seen before that the Quakes have crumbled. And this game, maybe, I'm not gonna say that I'm completely convinced the fact that this maybe is a different team, and that this team can really start to be like, unlike the previous Quakes team, really rise up and be a contender in the Western Conference. But this is definitely a great start, and definitely, again, just a statement win for them that I've not seen them have for a very long time. But the shots in this one: 17 shots for the 9 that the Quakes had, 7 shots on goal for the 3 that the Quakes had, 3 shots off target for the 7 that LAFC had. Both teams had 3 shots that was blocked, and possession-wise, 60% possession compared to 40% possession that the Quakes has in this game. And really, for LAFC, I mean, it was bound to happen. And I feel like if it wasn't that game against Nashville that was the one that they probably would lose their first game, this one looked like it would be, because again, just it's always tough to try and to, after that big victory against the Union, and the fact that they had to work a lot to try to get that. You just wonder, it's going to be always tough to have a team to come in just such a short rest and kind of stay in that intensity. And we kind of didn't see that, though. Again, it shouldn't be something that I think should be concern for LAFC fans. It was mainly because the intensity wasn't there, because they just played just enough, uh and then just a physical game against the Union, as what we saw a couple of games ago in that CCL second leg. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is New England and Toronto. So New England this season, we know this team has been very good when it comes to playing against teams that is not doing well in the league, and that kind of continue with them getting a 2-0 win against TFC in this one. Early on, Johnson did deny Boateng from close range, though it was kind of a slow start in this one too. Shots were only 1-0 through 15 minutes. Insigne then tried to chip Petrovic, but missed just wide after just a bad turnover from New England. Yeah, so New England basically turned the ball over to Lorenzo Insigne, and I'll tell you what, I thought for a second maybe Insigne actually got it. Maybe he actually chipped it over the head of Petrovic, but he just missed that one wide there. Speaking of turnovers, that happened to TFC on their own, but unlike how New England got away with it, TFC didn't get away with it, because in the 19th minute, and I actually got the wrong team there. Let me just correct that, because it's TFC did not score here. It's actually, I should say, NER here. But yeah, New England, of course, take the lead. It's Bobby Wood, the one that gets the lead for New England, and that was a gift to go for TFC, because it just came off of a WTF turnover from Rostan. Like, he literally got pickpocket from Bobby Wood there, and that, yeah. So much for great defensive resilience that TFC thought that they might have had in the past couple of games, which, to be fair, they have been much better in terms of defending in the last couple of games. But this moment is definitely not an example of it. Just a brutal turnover, and just a gifted that goal for New England to have. And yeah, the refs took full advantage of it, and they make it 1-0. And then Larea did try to respond for TFC, but that one missed wide before Cervania puts it just high from long range. And then Insignia also did the same thing, but he puts that one wide too. And I thought it was a good response for Toronto. They were trying to press to get the equalizer, though Johnson did palm Buck volley shot from close, and we do head to halftime with New England leading 1-0. In the second half, Petrovic would deny Larea in the near post before Sapon just brushed the post on the header, as I thought TFC was on the front foot again. They were looking to try to get the equalizer. Well, they don't get it, because New England would double their lead in the 62nd minute, with DeJuan Jones scoring here to make it 2-0 in favor of the Rams. And I thought it was against the run of play, because, again, up to that point, it was kind of all TFC in the second half. But New England got one chance, and they buries it and show that clinical ability. And that's a perfect example of, that New England is a good team, especially on the road. When you see a road team do that, that and being clinical in terms of finishing, because you know that when you're a road team, you're not going to get a lot of opportunity, and the Revs were definitely very clinical in this one. So on the other end, Benedeski did hits one right to Petrovic before Petrovic denied Insigne from close range. Once again, Toronto was pressing to look to get one back. Rosted then hits it wide from close range before in the 80th minute, Johnson would deny Heel on another bad turnover for TFC. And I mean, Road, these turnover has been killer for Toronto in this game. Like, you just cannot keep turning the ball over and expect the fact that things are going to be good to happen. I mean, the only good thing is that at least this didn't turn into a goal. But yeah, in the end, New England, they were able to win 2-0 in this one. Shots in this one, TFC actually double the amount of shots that New England has. 20 shots compared to 10 that the Revs has in this one, but the shots on goal tells the story. The Revs had 6 shots on goal compared to 5 that Toronto has. 9 shots off target for the 2 that New England has. 2 shots that was blocked compared to none that Toronto has. And possession-wise, 53% possession compared to 47% possession that the Revs has in this game. And yeah, for New England, this is what they do. This is what Bruce Arena does in terms of this season, able to get resort against teams that they should beat. And I've said before where that is a very underrated thing in MLS, because we have seen before where even the best team drop resort against the team that they should beat. Looking at you, Seattle, after what happened earlier today. But that's not the case for this Revs team. They've been able to take advantage of playing against easy team and getting all 3 points. But for TFC, yeah, so much for looked like maybe the last game was a game where they won, and it's a turnaround for them to get on a good run, because they had the same issue in this game as we've seen earlier this year, which is very bad defensively and just turning the ball over that kind of cost them in this one. But moving on into the final game on this board, and the final game I'm going to talk about in this video as part of part 1 of the review for the Saturday action is Houston and RSL. So this game ended in a 0-0 draw, which is not a big surprise, because it feels like for the past couple of ones, it feels like this fixture has always ended in a 0-0 draw. But this one, it wasn't because of lack of chances. In fact, man, there was a lot of chances in this one. This was one of those 0-0 draws that I've seen this season, where the only reason why it ended 0-0 was neither team just couldn't find that finishing in this one. But in the first half, 1 minute into this one, Savarino would curls it wide from long range before on the other end, Franco would hit one right to McMath. Chang then hits one right to Clark before Carrasquilla would post it just wide from close range. It was back and forth for the first 10 minutes, and that would continue throughout the first half too, as I even wrote, fast start to this game. Both teams racking up some half chances looking for the opening goal. Chang would curl it just high from close range before Bear would hit one right to McNabb. Clark then denied Yakison, and what a goal this would have been for the youngster Yakison. I mean, he hits this one very well on the scissor kick. Definitely, if that one went in, that's a goal of the week contention, and probably would win the goal of the week. But Clark with a big save here to deny him there. And then it was the post turn to deny the chance for both of these teams to get the opening goal. This time, denying Bear of the opener in the 42nd minute. And again, this could have easily been 2-2 or 3-3 if both of these teams could find some sort of finishing, which again, that's pretty much sums up this game. Neither of these teams were very clinical at all in terms of their finishing. And we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, Rubin would drive one just wide from long range before McMath denied Herrera a shot that actually took a wicket deflection. So great job there from Zach McMath, able to read that one well. It's not easy for a goalkeeper to save one that took a wicket deflection. But again, once again, great chance for both of these teams, looking to try and to get the opening goal coming out of the break. Clark would then deny Gomez, but Samarino actually gets a second crack of it, but he blasts that one high, which again just sums up the finishing in this one. Then Bartlow had a header that just missed wide from a corner in the 73rd minute. Ojeda then had a shot that was deflected, but goes wide there, and it just feels like it looked like this was one of those games that neither of these teams can find their finishing, and that neither of these teams are getting luck in terms of those deflections. There was a couple of deflection in this one, where if you get a fortunate deflection, it might go in. It just didn't happen in this one. Carrasquilla then blasted high from close in the 81st minute before Seba Ferreira puts it high from long range in the 88th minute. And yeah, in the end, despite the fact that both of these teams have boatloads of chances, It ends scoreless between the Dynamo and RSL. Shots in this one, 16 shots for the 13 that RSL had, 5 shots on goal for the 4 that the Dynamo has, 9 shots off target for the 6 that RSL has, 2 shots that was blocked for the 3 that the Dynamo has, and possession-wise, 61% possession compared to 39% possession that RSL has in this game. And I'm pretty sure both of these teams probably will be a little bit ticked off coming out of this one because and it could have gone either way. Like if one of these teams, even if they can just put one chances away, they would have got all 3 points out of this game. But unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be. And I think with the way that both team was bad at their finishing, I think it's only fitting that this ends up in a 0-0 draw, and it's only fair that both teams walk away with a point. And we'll not talk about how they let 3 points slip away, or let 2 points slip away because they just could not put the ball in the back of the net. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of the review of these 8 games as part of the first part of the review for match week number 11. Don't forget, tomorrow I will be doing part 2, and I'm actually only going to look at 4 games because, as I mentioned, one of the game between Dallas and St. Louis, I'm not going to review that one since that one only lasted 50 minutes. I'm not going to do what I did last season where I did kind of review like the first 10 minutes of that Charlotte and Columbus game, and then I didn't review after that. And I feel like, well, until that game is going to be resumed, I'll probably do a full comprehensive review, and it's going to be kind of awkward saying that. Well, that's what happened in the 50th minute, and now we're going to flash for a couple of months when this game, of course, resumed. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below what do you think of these games. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.